All right. Really nice to be back with the FOLA gang again. Had the pleasure over many years of coming to many FOLA plenaries and meeting many friends across the province and meeting new friends, making new friends as well. Thank you for being very dedicated and staying till the last presentation of the day. I hope to make it worthwhile and very informative for you. I'm going to be covering pretty much a number of the things that I usually do. I want to talk about the claims that we're seeing right now, highlight for you the changes that are coming as part of the new 2023 program. There's a bit of misinformation out there about what LawPRO is and does and how we operate, and so I thought it was important to put some information out. I call that the LawPRO 101 part of the presentation. I want to highlight some new resources we have and briefly give a plug to Title Plus. So, first up, lots of people assume that claims would have stopped or dropped off very significantly during the pandemic. We certainly did see a bit of a drop, but they certainly didn't stop coming through the door. So we are in 2021 basically back up 3,193 claims reported, and if you look at kind of the trend over a long period of time, we're kind of back on that trend where we were before a small drop in 2021. And in round numbers, over the years, we've seen an increase in claims count of about 2.5% average per year, or on the cost side, 3.8% per year. The costs are going up faster than the count is. In 2019, our average cost per claim was $36,000. And I'm quoting back to 2019 because it's really only after we've had files for 2 to 3 years where we truly know what they're ultimately going to cost us. Sitting where we are today, right now we're projecting about $106 million in claims costs for 2022 and $113 million in claims costs for 2023. Heading into a recession, when things go bad, people often blame their lawyers for what went wrong. So we typically see claims go up during a recession. We're also seeing increased operational cost and decreased investment income. A very significant concern that I want to highlight, and you will be getting more information from us as we look forward, is the increase in real estate frauds that we've seen involving ID theft, typically private mortgages, not always, and/or funds redirections. So that is a spoofed email that appears to come to you from your client, but is actually a fraudster saying, don't send the money there, send the money here. And we see lawyers, unfortunately, falling for those. And collectively, between LawPRO and the titles insurers, over the last 2 or 3 years, we're talking tens of millions of dollars of losses here. And we have to do something to stem these losses. And I think a large part of that is going to be doing a higher level of verification when it comes to identifying and verifying who the clients you're dealing with are. The types of claims we've seen, and you've all seen this graph multiple times over the years, the mix changed a little bit. We saw a very significant drop in litigation claims over the first part of the pandemic in 1920. They're slowly coming back up. Real estate kind of dropped down, but with the hot market, the real estate claims are back up as well. Wills and estates continues its kind of slow trickle up over time. It's up now to 14% of the LawPRO claims portfolio in 2021. When we look at claims by type of error, some interesting things here, and you'll see the influence of the drop of litigation claims in 2020 and 2021. Communications and time management errors, significant drop there, and that's a large function that many of the litigation errors are missed limitation periods and so on. I think directly coming out of the pandemic, one thing we've seen in terms of increases of errors is more clerical errors, and that's just less interaction between lawyers and their staff. And we've also seen an increase in inadequate investigation or discovery of facts. So that's the lawyer asking questions, understanding what is the client's issue, what's going on here, what's the appropriate advice. And we think, again, that's a function of phone calls and Zoom calls and quick interactions that are virtual, as opposed to sitting down, taking more time face to face. So something we're going to be reaching out to try and educate lawyers about avoiding claims. The claims closed in 2021, more or less the mix we've seen in long term. Only 13% of the files involved an indemnity payment. That is a payment because there was negligence on the part of the lawyer that meant that the client suffered compensable damages under the LawPRO policy. About a third of the claims, just over a third, closed without any payment, and about just over half closed with defense costs only. And again, some of these claims are client unhappy with the results, client unhappy with the fees, and so on. So it's about setting clients' expectation and miscommunication, poor communication on that front. Okay, 2023 insurance program changes. Basically, we are in the process of launching the application. We're waiting for the tardy ones to get their applications for next year in. November 8th was the first deadline. And we're literally starting to plan the program for next year. And we do that by looking at claims trends and costs, capital requirements, in particular due to FSRA obligations, our capital requirements. Economic and investment and market trends. Investment income is very important to us, the scope of coverage, the changing environment in which lawyers practice, and comments and feedback that we get from the press. Many of our changes, some of the improvements in our coverage, in how we handle calls, how our website operates, comes directly from the suggestion. So 2023 program, the premium is going up to $3,250, an increase of $250 or 8.3%. We held off last year and the year before. We were seeing trends that could justify an increase in premium, and felt we had to do something for 2023, and that reflects increased claims and operational costs and decreased investment income, and I'll come back to that. We are helping lawyers that are just criminal or immigration. They're now exempted from filing the transaction levy exemption filings. We're not making any changes to the premium real estate and litigation levies. And we provided some clarifications to the policy in terms of how we characterize what we call repairs or loss prevention work. So often we'll get a call from a lawyer who has a situation that may or may not be a claim, depending on the circumstances, or that there may be some kind of error there that could lead to damages for the client. But we jump in right away, and to keep claims costs down and to resolve it, we will effect some kind of repair. And we've got our really experienced defense counsel who know the ins and outs and different tricks. And as one of my claims professionals said to me, this person pulled a rabbit, our defense counsel pulled a rabbit out of the hat to fix this problem. We didn't think it was going to happen, but it was a significant fix. So the lesson there, report early, report often, don't be afraid to report. Deductibles aren't triggered solely by reporting, and when people are in the middle of dealing with a very stressful situation, they don't always see all the things that can be done to clean up and repair or reduce the damages. Going back to the premium increase, I think some important perspective. Yes, an increase of 8.3%, but when you look at the LawPRO premium over the last 10 years, it's lower than it was between 2011 and 2016. And that's a testament to, I think, how we run the program, manage costs, keep our expenses down, use investment income to cover some of the costs for running the program. I ask how many of you can identify one other product or service that is cheaper today for you than it was 10 years ago. And important to note that more than a third of lawyers pay significantly less than the base premium. New lawyers get a discount over their early years in practice, reflecting a lower claims risk historically. Part-time lawyers pay half the premium, and those that are solely criminal or immigration get half the base premium as well. And there's the numbers that are the different groups there. Okay, moving on. LawPRO 101. There are some folks, I don't want to make any disparaging comments about age, but there are some folks in this room that remember the insurance crisis of the early 90s. The law societies then ran the insurance program, and it ended up with almost $200 million in unfunded claims. And the result was a task force that came forward to find a solution. And the task force solution was the creation of what was then called LPIC, now called LawPRO, an insurance company that would operate independently from the Law Society with its own board of directors, operate in the language that was used back then, a commercially reasonable way. That was basically that the money coming in has to cover the cost, the money going out. And today, effectively, practically speaking, that means that we need, as a regulated financial institution, to comply with the capital requirements that FSRA, our regulator, puts on us, to provide insurance at a cost that reflects the risk, i.e., if you're a greater risk, you pay a higher premium because you're more likely to have a claim. And we do that through the different levels of premiums, we do that through the transaction levies, and so on. And that we were to settle claims fairly and quickly, but not on a no-fault basis. If there is some merit to the claim, some negligence there or some exposure, we will do our best to repair it. We will pay out the claim in a reasonably quickly fashion. If there is no negligence there, we don't make economic settlements on those types of claims. We are a very important part of the Law Society's public protection mandate, and that's the main purpose of the Law Society, remember. And we set clients right in the event they suffer a compensable loss due to the negligence of their lawyer. And we provide E&O coverage, and I want to get some numbers out there so that there's clarity on this, to over 80% of the Law Society's current numbers. So there's roughly 55,000 members of the Law Society. We insure the 30,000 lawyers that are in private practice. We also provide runoff coverage, lifetime free runoff coverage of 250,000 that many insurance exempt members of the Law Society currently have the benefit of that coverage, and many more lawyers who are no longer members of the Law Society who would also have that coverage. And that's an additional 38,000 lawyers that we insure there. LawPRO operates like a not-for-profit entity. Let me explain that. We are a for-profit entity, and we have to show a profit to our regulator to show them that we are solvent. However, unlike other insurance companies, we don't operate to make an underwriting profit. So if we look and say we're going to have $1 worth of claims, we underwrite and say we only need roughly, these numbers are approximate, 90 cents in premiums to pay that dollar in claims, because we use the investment income to make up that difference. And we make up that difference to roughly break even. So that's how I kind of say that we are a for-profit entity, but we essentially operate on a not-for-profit basis. We're not into profit. Every dollar that we have goes to expenses or back into keeping premiums as low as possible. Now, to respond to Joe's comments last night, for 27 years, LawPRO has not operated to make a profit for the Law Society. The Law Society owns LawPRO and can easily make that change. But keep in mind, every dollar that we would send off to the Law Society is a dollar that would go to paying LawPRO operational expenses and to keep LawPRO premiums as low as possible. Changing LawPRO to an entity that pays a dividend to the Law Society almost certainly means that LawPRO premiums would go up. And it's important to note or keep in mind that we are a taxable entity, all right? For us to send $1 off to the Law Society, we have to charge $1.26 in premiums, okay? Law Society is a not-for-profit. If it collects $1 from a member, it has $1 of revenue to use. There's no tax implications there. So having dividends paid through LawPRO is not the most tax-efficient way of getting funds over to the Law Society. Changing our status to pay a dividend also would have some capital implications, and I don't really have time to get into that today. The bottom line would suggest that any decision to change how we operate or sending a dividend off to the Law Society should happen with full consideration of all of the different implications. Next up, almost half of lawyers during their career in private practice will have a claim. 3,000 lawyers contact LawPRO every year. So in round numbers, that's 100 lawyers for every 1,000 that we insure. As I said, 15% involve an indemnity payment, 85% don't involve negligence, but many require some hand-holding and even defense counsel to assist us in dealing with getting those claims resolved. LawPRO offers many advantages to the bar, and I won't read over all of the points, but commend them here. Basically, having LawPRO there means that every lawyer in private practice is guaranteed to be able to get coverage at a reasonable premium, and there's uniform and consistent coverage across the bar for everyone. If LawPRO was replaced by a commercial carrier, I would dare suggest that most lawyers would likely see their premium at least double. Keep in mind that some lawyers might not be able to practice because some commercial lawyers may say to you, your claims risk is too high, we're not willing to sell you coverage at any risk. So the insurance companies then become the bar to letting people into practice. LawPRO policy covers you for past work, current work, regardless. If you have a commercial carrier, you changed firms, it likely means you're going to need a policy to cover the work at your old firm, you're going to need a policy to coverage the work at your new firm, and in terms of the free runoff coverage, that's probably another policy that you're going to get. So some things to keep in mind there. Wanted to plug some new resources from Practice Pro. First of all, we've got a number of resources that are intended to educate lawyers on fraud and fraud prevention, in particular the phishing and other cyber crimes. And that's how when we see the frauds where the client is duping, or the supposed client is duping the lawyer. Very simply, what happens here, most often a phishing message has gone to a staff member at the firm, or to the client, or to some other person involved with the file, a financial manager. They've been told in that phishing message, you know, your password's been compromised, please log in and reset it. They go and they do that, but when they do that, they're actually giving the credentials to the fraudsters, okay? The fraudsters then will log in and they will watch the client's email, or they will watch your email, and they will wait till the day of closing, and they will send an email to you or your staff person, making it appear like it came from the client, saying, oh, I've changed my mind, I don't want it to go to this bank account, I want it to go to this, or wire it somewhere else. And lawyers and staff, wanting to be helpful and responsive to their clients, respond to those last minute requests to send funds elsewhere, unfortunately. So something to be aware of. So don't respond to requests for personal information. Educate all the lawyers and staff at firms in terms of the phishing messages and their dangers. Call before you click. If anybody gets instructions at the last minute to change where funds are going, like red flag, big red flag, 10 red flags, call the client and make sure that that instruction is absolutely legitimate. One of the biggest weaknesses out there is people who don't use passwords, use weak passwords, use the same password on everything. And what then happens is if somebody falls for a phishing message and you give them your login and password, what the hackers then do is they go off to your Facebook page and your Instagram page and all your other pages, because there's loads and loads of people that use one password for everything, and they're in everywhere, and that's, you know, ID theft. Again, anytime there's a situation where people are rushing, client wants you to close the deal, move the thing along, that's another red flag. And educate clients on the different kinds of risks that may be out there as well. So there's some great resources on fraud prevention over at the Title Plus page. Encourage you to get that or go online. We will come out, and we're doing a lot of security presentations. Happy to send someone out to your local law association to help get this message out. Please, my contact information's at the end of the PowerPoint deck. Happy to have somebody come out and do one of these fraud presentations or on any of the other topics listed on the screen. All of these are available online. And all of them are approved for the LawPRO risk management credit, mean you can watch it. If you do it, you get a $50 premium, LawPRO premium credit. And almost all of our programs are also qualified for Law Society professionalism hours. So if you need those hours before the end of the year, that's where you can get them. Different things happen in different areas of the law, and to help lawyers understand the specific dangers in their different areas of the law, we've got practice tip sheets for, I think, 11 different areas of the law now. Encourage you to take a look at those if you've not done so. And we are regularly posting updates on frauds on Avoid a Claim. Last up, Title Plus. Over the last year and a half, we've significantly overhauled Title Plus. Remember, Title Plus was created, was started up about 25 years ago when the American title companies came and set up shop in Canada, and we've worked very hard to keep real estate lawyers in the real estate game by supporting them with Title Plus. We've recently done a major overhaul of the product. We've improved our underwriting. We've got a fantastic new website where you can order policies directly. We are now integrated on both Realty Web and Unity, so we're accessible now. Those are the two platforms that are most widely used by Ontario lawyers. And we finally stepped up and are now paying the so-called counsel fee to lawyers that do Title Plus policies in recognition of the work that they do in preparing that policy. So if you are a real estate lawyer or know a real estate lawyer, I encourage you to revisit Title Plus if you haven't taken a look lately. That's all of my comments. A little faster than usual. Happy to answer any questions.
I thought I had the mic down by me, but they don't. They're
It's really nice not being the chair of the conference and have to run around carrying the mic like that.
So we all dream of the day we're going to retire. Do you recommend carrying a policy after retirement, and if so, how long?
Okay, I think everybody heard that question. You automatically get $250,000 of lifetime coverage for free. The moment you tell us, I'm no longer in practice, put me on the exempt list, that coverage is triggered. We do suggest lawyers look at what their practice risk was, and we have optional runoff buy-up. So you buy up your coverage. And for example, I'll quote the number that I did. I had a general practice real estate and family for 10 years in St. Catharines. And I think my premium originally was about $400 a year to buy it up to $1 million. Take a look at your practice, and it's cheap peace of mind coverage. If you've done wills or estates and real estate deals, title insurance may cover that, but just to give you comfort and peace of mind, encourage lawyers to take a look at that. For how long, there is an article on the LawPRO website that has the length of time that it takes for claims to arise in different areas of the law. I think the longest time was something like 45 years. Litigation errors tend to come up more quickly. Wills, estates, marriage contracts tend to take a little bit longer. If you go out 10 to 15 years. That's pretty much the practical limit. And of course, we now have new limitations, period limitations that weren't there in the past.
Any other questions? No?
Easy crowd today.
I know. What the heck?
All right. Thank you, everyone.